Hey everybody, I'm Jack with Future Pastimes. I'm a board game designer, but in this video I'm going to be doing a review of a board game, and that is for Slay the Spire, the board game. Now this was a crowdfunded game that I was very excited about getting. I've had it for a couple of months now, but the first chance I got to play it was this last week. So some friends of mine sat down and we had a 4P game. So technically it's a 1 to 4 player game. I don't play a lot of solo games, so that's the main reason why I hadn't played it yet. I've been a big fan of the video game. So this is a video game that's been turned into a board game. And yeah, if I wanted to play the game by myself, I would just play the video game. So I have the game on my computer, I have it on my phone, and I still play it. It's been out for a while, and I was fairly early in getting it. And have loved it since. I still play it on the video game on my computer. I am now using a lot of mods that I find really entertaining and enjoyable, and highly recommend looking into some of those on Steam. Can't get the mods on the phone, but that's fine. I mean, it holds up and it plays really well. So I was quite keen to see what the experience of the board game was going to be, and when my friends and I got together, I said, look, there's 4 of us. Why don't we give this a shot? So I set it up and I played it, and we all really enjoyed it. So this is a cooperative game, and with any kind of cooperative game, there's a couple of things that can be issues. One is, what is the AI for the game going to be? The players are all doing things and making decisions together, and they're playing against a game. The game has to have some sort of AI. Well, that AI works really well. It makes a lot of sense, and that's because it is fairly similar to how it unfolds in the video game. And it helps that the video game is a deck builder experience, and so it plays like any kind of a deck builder will play, and the board game version of it is the same. So the players, they do their actions first, which is how it works in the video game. Then the enemies do their actions. Now, in some cases, the enemies, they have one thing that they're going to do, and they just do that. In other cases, there's a possibility of 2 or more things that they might do, and you're going to roll a die at the start of the player's turn so that you know what the enemies will do when it is their turn, which again is similar to how it is in the video game. The video game, you get a sense of what the enemies are going to do when it's their turn. You know if they're going to attack or if they're going to give you a debuff or a buff for themselves, or some combination of these things. You might not know the exact thing, like how much damage they'll do in their attack yet. You won't know that until it is their turn, but you know that they're going to attack. You have more information in the board game than you do in the video game. One of the things they do in the board game version of it is they scale a lot of the stuff down. So your characters in the video game are going to start off with 70 hit points, whereas in the board game, you're starting off with 9 hit points or 10. And the enemies have, on the whole, they have fewer as well. So you can see here, this is what the character boards are. It measures your energy, which you use to play your cards, your shield, as well as your ongoing health. And it lets you know what your unique ability is throughout the game. So like the Ironclad is they're going to heal 1 at the end of each combat. And in the video game, they heal 6. So that's what I'm talking about with the scaling. So everything is scaled down just to make the gameplay flow. And it works. It's a pretty good conversion of those things. Some of the big bosses have a lot, but they're scales by player number. So if you're playing it solo, it's going to be a lower number of health that these bad guys will have. But we were doing it as a 4-player game, so we were at the maximum health. And when the first bad guy showed up and everyone saw how much health they had, because most of the enemies up to that point were like, oh, it has 7 health or 10 health or 15 health. We were like, ooh, 15. And then it was like 160 health. And they were like, what? But it works. It works because there are 4 characters working together to damage those enemies. And throughout the game, if you're playing with a 4-player game as we did, you're having a different rows, and everybody always has an enemy, at least one enemy in each row, for almost all the encounters. Not for the elite encounters per se, or the end bosses, but the elites, they're attacking everybody, and everybody is attacking them. So it's not like they're only targeting one character. So it works out. The other thing that you worry about in a cooperative is the alpha player syndrome, where somebody is just telling everybody what to do. But what's nice about this is with the deck building, you're looking at your card, your hand of cards, and you're making those decisions. And other players can say, look, I'd really love it if you could help attack this character, because you can attack each other's enemies. You can, in some cases, you can provide shield for your allies that you don't necessarily need. So you put that information out there. You can have the alpha gamer syndrome. It can still be a thing, but I think it's mitigated just by the way that the gameplay unfolds. So we were happy about that. A lot of times because you're able to do your turn in any order. You can do whatever you want. Like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and do my stuff. There's some coordinating. Like, if somebody can do an attack that will apply vulnerable, I'll be able to do a really big attack on that character. So those sorts of bits of coordination are good to do. But on the whole, you're just like, well, I'm going to be able to do 2 attacks and some defending for myself. So I'm just going to do that. I'm setting the marker to indicate that. I'm lowering the health of the whichever enemy I'm attacking. So it doesn't feel like it takes forever to do those turns. They unfolded pretty smoothly. We ended up doing 2 acts. So the way the game has is you're going up the spire, up to the top, and that's 1 act. And it's designed to be a 3-act experience, or, as long as, but that took us a couple of hours to get through 2 acts. But it included teaching everybody how to play the game. I hadn't played it yet. I had a good idea of how to play it. 3 out of 4 of us had played the video game. But the 4th player picked it up very quickly. So, one of the things that concerned me was some of the details with the characters. So one of my favorite characters in the video game is the Watcher. And that is the one where she goes through these different states. She goes to calm and then to wrath. And when you're in wrath, you do double damage on all of your attacks, but you receive double damage from enemy attacks. Well, it wasn't like that at all in the board game. Wrath just it's just +1 to your attacks. And it doesn't have a +1 to all of the enemy attacks. You're just always taking 1 point of damage at the end of your turn, which if you have some shield, you can block that. In the video game, there's a 3rd state as well called Divinity, where you're doing triple damage, and there's just no divinity at all in the board game. So I was concerned about that, because that's what I like best about the Watcher, is the double damage wrath and the triple damage divinity. So I was concerned that it was just not going to capture it, but I ended up playing the Watcher in our 4-player game, and it worked out fine. I still felt like it was powerful. So they did a good job of the conversion, which was interesting, because with the Silent, her deal is that she's able to poison enemies and get these shivs. And in the video game, the shivs are cards, which if you don't use them, they get discarded. And with poison, when you poison an enemy in the video game, however much poison they have, they take that much damage, and then their poison goes down by 1. So if you gave them 3 poison, they'd take 3 damage that turn, but then the next turn they would have 2 poison. Whereas in the board game, if they get poison, they don't lose it. They just keep taking that damage. And the shivs end up being tokens that you put on your character, and you just keep them until you decide to use them. So I was like, it's interesting that they really feels like they buffed up the Silent while debuffing the Watcher. But again, it still felt like it played pretty well. So while everything is not exactly the same as it is in the video game, it's close enough, and the changes do seem to make sense. So on the whole, I think that the Slay the Spire board game is pretty fantastic. It's a really good co-op, and I highly recommend it. I've got no major beefs with anything about the game, and I'm looking forward to making some custom cards inspired by a lot of those mods that I talked about in the video game. And I see on Board Game Geek, somebody's already posted some of their own custom cards, so I may end up making some of those as well. I'll have to see how I'm doing for sleeves. The sleeves for the players' decks are, it's a must. It's a feature because you can upgrade your cards. And basically what you mean is you take that card out of the sleeve and you flip it over, and the other side is the upgraded version. So it's great. There are some extra sleeves. I don't know how many extra there are in there. I'll have to take a look at it because there is an Ascension mode, which I haven't gotten to. So if you're familiar with the video game, you know what Ascension is. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's in here. And after we have played through Ascension, I'll do another video where I talk about what I think about how that was done as well. So there you have it. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know in the comments. But if you have a chance to play it, definitely play it. If you have a chance to acquire it, I think you'll be happy that you did. So that's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.